Pride. For LGBTQ plus folk around the world, pride represents equality, solidarity, and self-affirmation, as well as resistance to the discrimination that queer communities still face today. Pride Month is not just a month-long party. It's a remembrance of the 1969 Stonewall riots that catalyzed the gay liberation movement. Pride events honor those who've gone before us, those who've given up everything to fight for equality, and those we've lost in that fight. In the 1970s, as the gay liberation movement spread across the world, a coordinated scam of extraordinary size was also on the move. Over the years, this scam gained immense amounts of power. So much power, in fact, that numerous politicians and even some presidents became involved. Legislation was passed to protect and promote it, and today, virtually everyone, in one way or another, has been negatively affected by this scam. Of course, the scam I'm referring to is multi-level marketing. In many ways, the MLM industry actively works against the interest of the LGBT community. Many MLM companies donate to the political campaigns of those seeking to pass anti-LGBT legislation. MLMs also promote a regressive image of gender roles and support so-called family values while simultaneously co-opting feminist terms in their marketing. Worst of all, research shows that MLMs disproportionately target marginalized groups, such as women and racial minorities, and those they target are almost certain to lose money while the MLM itself makes millions. So how did an MLM company become a major sponsor of Cincinnati's annual Pride Festival? And should MLM companies be allowed at Pride events in the first place? Before we dive into the video, I wanted to mention two nonprofits that I'd ask my viewers to consider supporting: Equality Ohio and the Transgender Education Network of Texas. The mission of Equality Ohio is to identify and transform systems and institutions so that LGBTQ plus Ohioans can fully access legal and lived equality. The Transgender Education Network of Texas is an organization that is dedicated to furthering gender diverse equality in Texas through education and networking in private and public forums. In 2022, we've seen an increase in anti-LGBT legislation, especially legislation targeting trans youth, so I really think it's more important than ever to support these types of nonprofits. A link to both organizations will be in the description if you'd like to donate.
All right, right now we are here at the Cincinnati Pride Parade, and it's an amazing, amazing event. You know, it's about, all inclusivity, and that's what Pure Romance is going for and continues to keep educating ourselves. I'm excited for all the Pure Romance family to be here and to be doing this. The only person, when we look at this is, I know Patty was traveling. We wish she was here, but she's here in spirit, so it'll be a fun day.
The topic of today's video really hits home for me. As a queer anti-MLM content creator, I have a vested interest in researching MLM companies that claim to support LGBT causes. I'm also originally from Ohio, and the MLM that we'll be discussing today, Pure Romance, just happens to be headquartered out of Cincinnati, Ohio. Pure Romance is a bit of an oddball in the MLM world. These companies typically shill things like supplements, juice cleanses, essential oils, but Pure Romance shills dildos.
Okay.
The story of Pure Romance begins with a woman named Patty Brisbane. In 1983, Patty joined a direct sales company called Fun Parties that sold adult toys. Patty was apparently inspired to join after seeing a few of their consultants featured on the Phil Donahue show. Now, I'm not completely sure if Fun Parties used a multi-level or a single-level compensation plan, but considering that it's not really uncommon for MLM founders to have prior experience in other MLMs before founding their own, I wouldn't be surprised if Fun Parties operated as an MLM. Patty was actually a really successful salesperson, and during her first year at Fun Parties, she was named the top seller out of 3,000 consultants. When the company closed down in 1993, Patty decided to open her own adult toy company, which she named Slumber Parties. I know, right? A bit of a kiddie name for an adult toy company.
That's suspicious. That's weird.
Slumber parties marketed their products through independent consultants who would hold at-home parties. These parties were just like the Tupperware or Mary Kay parties that were so popular at the time. A consultant would give this long-winded product presentation to a living room full of women nibbling on finger sandwiches and sipping on wine, and hopefully convince at least one of these women to buy something. Except instead of shilling stackable storage containers, slumber party consultants were shilling vibrators.
I was at a bus stop waiting for the bus to come with all of our friends every morning like we did. And one particular morning I came there and the older kids actually rode the same bus that we did to school. Well, kid comes up and walks up and taps me on the shoulder and goes, "Hey, your mom's the sex toy lady." I said, "What?"
I'm like, oh my gosh, here we go. It's that time. What are you really going to say? How are you going to handle this? And he goes, you sell them vibrators.
Slumber Parties was marginally successful, and by 2000, the company had 6 full-time employees and almost $2 million in annual sales. That same year, Patty asked her son, Chris, to join the company and help her expand their reach to other states. Patty thought Chris would be well suited for this job because of his business degree and prior experience in upper management. And you know, who doesn't want their son to join their vibrator company? As I was researching for this video, I came across multiple sources that said slumber parties started using an MLM model around the same time that Chris joined the company. I have a feeling that turning the company into an MLM was Chris's idea. However, I couldn't find anything that directly confirms this. It does say on his website that Chris developed their person-to-person model, which sounds to me like the whole MLM thing was pretty much his doing. In 2001, Chris became Slumber Party's president and CEO, and then in 2003, the company name was changed to Pure Romance, which thank God it was. The name Slumber Parties is a bit too creepy. Pure Romance seemed to explode in growth when it became an MLM, and this is something that's actually quite typical for MLM companies. They tend to have explosive growth early on, but once they saturate the market with consultants, they implode just as quickly. Pure Romance, it seems, is still in its growth phase. They've since expanded into 4 other countries: South Africa, Australia, Canada, and New Zealand. And in 2018, they raked in almost $300 million in revenue. Pure Romance's public support of the LGBT community and LGBT causes is a rather recent development. In fact, for much of their history, Pure Romance upheld a very heteronormative framework for their at-home parties. Their products were pretty much marketed exclusively to cis-het couples.
Hand in hand, you and me.
20 years of love.
We are walking in harmony.
20 years of fun.
You make me happy.
20 years of romance.
And that's all we need to know.
Pure Romance.
It seems the push for inclusivity started with Pure Romance's CEO, Chris. In 2018, Chris and his wife, Jessica, founded Living with Change, a nonprofit that provides resources and support for transgender youth and their families. Chris and Jessica were inspired to start this nonprofit after their daughter, Elsie, came out to them as transgender.
So we decided that we were going to start the foundation, Living with Change, when our oldest child was born. And now lives as Elsie, and I'll give you that quick backstory. Is since the age of 3, Elsie has been coming and saying, "Hey, Dad, Mom, I'm a girl. You keep thinking I'm a boy, but I'm really a girl." This isn't a choice. This isn't Elsie chooses this. This is who Elsie is, and I think that has been something that I didn't understand in the beginning, and but it's over time. And through education and through seeing this in my own eyes, I'm going to tell you, it's not a choice. It's who they are, and I think we've kind of embraced that, and I think we continue to keep embracing it. And there is no playbook, and I think every day is a new day for us, a new chapter, a new whatever. And I think that's why we're telling our story. Is there's so many people that since we have opened up and talked about it, that people have come up and said, I think can I talk to you about how to deal with this or how to deal with that, or unsupportive parents at home? Because again, I was the unsupportive, father in the beginning. Jessica was the one that was more on the, no, let's let this play out, let's LC be LC.
Well, and I think neither one of us understood it. So that was hard.
Yep.
Like, not understanding. It's not that you weren't supportive. I think it was just hard to understand, like, what does this mean? And
Yep.
how is this happening? And what do we do? And then once we realized, like, this isn't a choice. This is who she is and how she feels on the inside, really what it came down to for us is, like, loving our child and wanting the best for our child.
Yep.
And so that's kind of, where we took it. And then we thought, as we were going through this, we thought, oh my gosh, think of, we're so fortunate. Like, we have so much support. We have family, friends, community behind us. But what about those children that don't have the support? We started to think about that. And that is,
That's
really
why
the
the foundation
reason,
kicked off.
Yeah.
I have to give credit where credit's due. Chris and Jessica are doing pretty cool things with Living with Change. They've partnered with Cincinnati Children's Hospital to enhance their services for transgender youth, and Chris even donated $2 million out of his own pocket to fund the project. The hospital now has a transgender center with a full-time gender-affirming physician dedicated to working with trans patients. And Living with Change is working on raising another $500,000 to expand the center. At some point after Living with Change was founded, Pure Romance started making monthly contributions to them and to another LGBT nonprofit called Encircle. It's unclear how much they're donating to each organization, though. Okay, so let's circle back to the topic of the video, Pride. For the last 3 years, Pure Romance has been a major sponsor of Cincinnati's annual Pride Festival. They're actually the largest sponsor this year, beating out billion-dollar companies like Delta and McDonald's. From what I've been able to gather, Pure Romance doesn't allow consultants to sell product during the actual festival, which is a good thing. Of course, I'm sure their company logo and imagery will be conspicuously placed on all of the banners and swag they'll be handing out during the parade this year. And I'm sure there will be some Pure Romance Huns that just can't resist sharing their amazing opportunity with all the people there.
Come on, ready? Say Pride on 3. 1, 2, 3. Pride!
We are here to give out all of this cool Pure Romance swag to all of those people that are supporting Pride, supporting Pure Romance. We're not here to sell product. We're here to show them. We have these awesome swag items, beautiful sunglasses with Pure Romance on them. We have over 10,000 pieces of swag going out today, so the Pure Romance is going to paint this city today.
Unfortunately, it's become normal for companies to use Pride as an avenue for marketing. This isn't something that's exclusive to Pure Romance. As historically marginalized groups like LGBT folks gain greater amounts of equality, they also gain more purchasing power. Once they've gained enough purchasing power, they become a marketable demographic. Corporations will then attach their brand to that demographic's cultural symbols and icons, like the rainbow flag, in order to market to them. There's a lot of different thoughts on this, but some would say that it's slightly more acceptable for corporations to market using Pride if they're also actively supporting LGBT causes throughout the year. In my opinion, it appears that the corporate side of Pure Romance is doing this, but what about the consultants? Although as a company, Pure Romance actively supports the LGBT community, their consultants aren't necessarily as supportive. As I was researching for this video, I corresponded with an ex-Pure Romance consultant named Ashley Davis. Ashley, who was a consultant for the company for almost 2 years, told me that the inclusion of the LGBT community isn't really a big deal to most consultants. At Pure Romance parties, it's often just assumed that the women in attendance are in straight relationships, and the product information and education they provide at these parties is really only applicable to straight couples. Ashley said that one time she threw a party that included a few LGBT folk, and her upline told her to do the party like normal. As in, don't make an effort to use inclusive language or provide education that would be relevant content to a diverse group of people. About a year ago, the YouTuber Not the Good Girl also spoke with an ex-Pure Romance consultant who had virtually the same thing to say.
So, of course, the company is very heteronormative. It's very much so like men and women having sex focus, you know. It wasn't until recently that they started to kind of acknowledge that it's not just heterosexual sex out there, that there's a lot of different types of sex out there.
This isn't something that's too surprising. MLM companies run rampant in conservative religious communities where it's considered sinful to be anything other than straight and cisgender. Pure Romance actually has a number of very religious consultants.
I myself am actually Mormon. I'm a member of the LDS Church. LDS stands for Latter-day Saints. Some of you might not have realized that we are also Christian. We are Christian, and I believe very strongly in my Savior. Hello, Lauren. Yes. So it is an interesting market. It's an interesting line to toe.
So even though Pure Romance is an ally, that doesn't necessarily mean their consultants are. I think this does present a problem because the consultants are the part of Pure Romance that's customer facing. They're the ones who do the selling, the recruiting, the training, the customer relations. I mean, just imagine going to a Pure Romance party because the company claims to be LGBT inclusive, only to face homophobia or transphobia from the company's consultants. And this has happened before. In 2019, a user on Tumblr shared how they were asked to leave a Pure Romance party after the host found out they were trans. I was there for a short while before the representative asked me if I was a man or a woman. I naturally said I was a woman, so she, I kid you not, asked to see my ID. She said she needed to ask me to leave because Pure Romance has a no trans women policy. So I decided to get up and leave, and I naturally gave her the middle finger as I left, to which she responded that she doesn't blame me, but her business is more important than basic human decency. Another user commented on that post and said the same thing happened to their friend. This is similar to what happened to a friend of mine when her housemate hosted a Pure Romance party, and she was told she would not be able to attend a party in her own damn house. The rep even asked what was down my friend's pants. I ended up emailing the company to express my disgust at what had happened and never got a response. What a shocker there. The thing about Pure Romance parties is that they're women only. The company is actually quite proud of this, and they say the rule is designed to help women feel more safe and more comfortable when talking about sexual wellness. It seems the last few years, though, there's been some confusion over whether or not trans women are allowed to attend parties. I mean, clearly some consultants don't want trans women to be there. So the good news is Pure Romance has since updated their policies to state that if a trans woman or a non-binary individual wants to attend a party, the consultant must allow them to attend. The bad news is Pure Romance consultants, they're not employees. They're technically contractors that operate independently. So whether or not Pure Romance actually enforces this policy is a whole different matter. Now, we just can't end this section of the video without talking about one of Pure Romance's most popular and most controversial products.
Like a virgin. Ow! Touched for the very first time. Oh, I could do it. I could go all day. All right. Like a Virgin is exactly what it sounds like. It is a 24-hour tightener. So it is going to make sure that on date night or when you're going out and special night, right? Like first night with a babysitter in 10 years, that you're going to make it extra special. It's basically going to make it just like your very first time. It is a temporary tightener though. So you should be pairing this with Kegel exercises to make sure that you're keeping everything happy and healthy. But the Like a Virgin is a lot of fun. And yes, it absolutely works.
Why am I not surprised that one of the most popular products of an MLM that claims to empower women in their own sexuality and doesn't allow men to even attend parties is a product that's aimed solely at the pleasure of men? They've received a lot of backlash for Like a Virgin. It's argued the product reinforces myths about virginity and perpetuates the idea that female bodies must cater to a male ideal. Consultants even advertise the product as a way to get back to your original self for 24 hours, implying that there's something inherently less desirable about a woman who's not a virgin. Although Pure Romance has since stopped actively advertising Like a Virgin on their websites or in their catalogs, you can still buy it. You can still find it sold on their website if you search for it. This tells me that Pure Romance wants it to look like they're doing the right thing without having to actually get rid of their cash cow that is telling women that their coochie needs to be tight for their man. Should MLM companies be allowed at Pride? Well, I think MLMs shouldn't exist at all, so in a way, no. But whether I like it or not, MLMs do exist, and at least one of these companies has made themselves a very large presence at a major city's Pride event. Honestly, I've been really torn over how to feel about Pure Romance sponsoring Cincinnati Pride. On one hand, they do regularly contribute to LGBT causes, and their CEO, Chris, has done a lot to support trans youth in Ohio. I also don't think Pure Romance is just trying to virtue signal. As I've said, the MLM industry is known for being highly conservative and backing anti-LGBT politicians. So taking such a strong pro-LGBT stance has probably distanced Pure Romance from the rest of the industry. On the other hand, though, the consultants don't seem to reflect the values the company espouses, and in some cases have perpetuated harm against the LGBT community. Not to mention some of their products and education reinforce very outdated views of sex and relationships. So here's the thing. At the end of the day, Pure Romance is still an MLM. It's still a legalized pyramid scheme. The only way the company makes money is if the majority of its consultants lose money. And in 2019, about 84% of Pure Romance consultants didn't make any money or lost money, despite the company's promises of financial freedom. The good the company is doing for trans youth doesn't make up for the fact that their business model relies on subjugation. My fear is if we allow MLMs like Pure Romance to take up space at Pride events, the MLM industry will come to see the LGBT community as a target demographic. If this keeps up, how long will it be until these companies actively target LGBT folk with their supposed business opportunities? How long until they co-opt the language of pride, citing homophobia in the workplace as a reason LGBT people should quit their jobs and become MLM reps? To me, this future feels too close already. MLMs take advantage of the very demographics that they claim to empower. If we sit idly by and watch this industry target our community, it's only a matter of time before MLMs do to us what they've already done to other minorities: use our disadvantages to line their own pockets. Thanks so much for watching, and a huge thank you to my patrons who helped make these videos possible. And please don't forget to check out the nonprofits I've linked down in the description. If you like this video, please be sure to subscribe and ring the bell. If you want to follow me on social media, my Instagram is Taylor_the_Antibot, and my Twitter is the Antibot. If you'd like to contribute to this channel financially, a link to my Patreon will be in the description, and I'll see you all in the next one. Say bye.